We're supposed to, love our neighbor like we love ourselves. That quote is, you're supposed to love yourself first.
Mm-hmm.
You're supposed to put yourself first. You're supposed to fill your cup first. And this is not done in a selfish way. This is not saying, oh, I'm sorry, Johnny, I can't do that for you today because I have to take care of myself. No, it's making adjustments to your schedule so that you are there for your kids and you are there for your neighbor, you are there for your community. But it's making adjustments so that you can get your workout in or get your meditation in or purchase, healthy food.
Mm-hmm.
There are so many different ways and programs to shift how you take care of yourself. But it does take change, and change is hard.
What's up, you beautiful beasts? I'm Katie. I'm on a mission to help humans become their favorite versions of themselves and to strive for overall health by healing their relationship to food and exercise, healing their relationship to their body, and most importantly, healing their relationship to themselves, all without ever having to step on a scale. I have had the privilege to talk to all kinds of different humans who have been through a plethora of experiences just being a human and existing. I believe that every single time someone shares their story, at least one person listening will learn from it, be inspired by it, and maybe, just maybe, even change the entire direction of their life. These are the stories of humans unveiling their beautiful beast. Keep listening. This is the Unveiling the Beast podcast. So, can you tell me and the listeners a little bit about who you are and why you think, or why you might think you are who you are?
Oh, wow. I am, let's see, on the most simplest terms, I am a human being who is at this point in my life, at almost 48 years old, loving life. I didn't always love life. I had a childhood that, um, for a lot of it, it was good. Like when we would go on camping trips or vacations, it was good. It was those in between times when life was just quote unquote normal. That there was just a lot of emotional upheaval and stress and tension in the house. So I really looked forward to those vacations and those camping trips. And over the years, I suffered with a lot of anxiety and depression, but I was, even at a very early age, I would consider myself as a high functioning person with anxiety and depression because I hid it
Mm,
very well. Even in my teenage years, even at 8 years old, I become a people pleaser already because I didn't want to rock the boat. We always walked on eggshells, afraid of setting off um, the emotions in the house.
mm,
And and just getting to this point where I can look back and go, my life was had a childhood that was a little bit traumatic. Um, and it definitely affected me getting older, but
mm.
how it's played out, um, the universe gives you what you need to
Yeah.
heal. And what it gave me was energy healing and the ability to finally incorporate self-care into my daily practice. And I think if it was not for those two things, I would not be as excited and happy with where my life is right now.
Mm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You, so when I asked specialty, I think you put emotional healer. Is that what you said?
Yeah, I'm an energy
Okay.
healer and self-care coach.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Can you tell me a little more about that?
So as an energy healer, I work with the energetic balls, I like to call it. They're almost like those burrs that you get on your socks when you walk through a field.
Mm-hmm.
These energetic balls that stick to us throughout past lifetimes, childhood, teenage years, going into adults. When we don't feel our feelings, we can trap these emotions. So you can have like trapped anxiety and fear and worry and shame that just kind of sit in your energy field or in your bodies. But it can also be beliefs and toxins and EMF fields and all these other things that we can't see that are just attaching to us. And part of what I do is I use muscle testing to tap into the subconscious to find those things. And sometimes it's as simple as just finding a trapped emotion of shame from age 7 and releasing it. You don't have to know where it's coming from. You don't have to know what event it was around, but it's just removing that energy. And what it does is it frees up that space to add positive energy into by either installing positive emotions that you would have rather felt at that age, or positive beliefs, or doing the conscious work of meditation and journaling and learning to set boundaries or learning to feel your feelings. It's been a wonderful tool for my clients that have had childhood trauma that they don't either remember or they don't want to have to relive. I know through a lot of other modalities, they have you go through the trauma again and rewrite the story. But who wants to revisit what they've already been through? Because your brain doesn't understand that you're not going through it right now, that you're just remembering it. If you're thinking about it again and you're feeling those emotions again, your body thinks you're going through it again. And so you're just re-traumatizing yourself with those memories. And through the energy healing, we're able to just release those energetic holds and then replace them with things that are more comforting and more calming. Doesn't mean that they didn't happen. It doesn't mean that you may not think about them again, but this gives you the opportunity to walk through them differently. So they're not as harsh on your mind or your heart or your body as they once were.
So is this what helped? Because you were saying back in the day, you were very good at hiding it.
I was.
And so, my interpretation of hiding it, I also was a hider, is stuffing it. And therefore does this like add to the energy every time you stuff it down? Does it add and make it bigger?
It does. It does. I kept stuffing and stuffing and stuffing. And then I had kids and I had to keep stuffing because I had to be there for my kids. And I would just keep stuffing. And every time something would happen, because even though I grew up, the relationship dynamics of my childhood home did not change. So there were still conversations with my parents and siblings that were argumentative and stressful, intense. And so I had to keep stuffing that stuff down because I didn't want to pass it on to my kids. Not realizing that I was just stuffing stuff down to have to deal with later.
Yeah.
And in 2018, our twins graduated college. Our oldest and my husband my twins graduated high school. My oldest and my husband graduated college. We bought our forever home right on the beach. And my anxiety and depression were like, okay, so your life is not quite as busy as it used to be. And so now it's our turn. So they came knocking on the door and they were like, hello, can you let us in now? Can you deal with us now? Can we come in and have dinner? And at first I was like, no, I'm not ready for this. I had actually started smoking again. I started drinking more in an attempt to just kind of push it all away again. But when it got to the point where I either needed to ask for help or I was going to run my vehicle into a telephone pole because I just needed some time alone, some
Mm,
time to try to figure things out. And when I had that realization that I may actually hurt myself, I decided I needed to get help. And I went the traditional routes to begin with, medication and talk therapy. But this was right as COVID happened, right as everything was shutting down. So I had to have an appointment with a doctor I didn't know, I didn't trust, and it was like 15 minutes long. And
mm,
they're like, okay, so what have you tried before? Oh, you've tried that medication? Okay, well, let's just try that again. We'll use that as a starting point. And then the therapy was playbook. It was what I taught, how are you? What do you think? What's wrong? Here's some worksheets, or here's an app, here's an app now that you can use. But you 45 minutes with somebody else that you don't know, that you haven't built a relationship with yet, and that you're supposed to trust with all of your deepest feelings.
yeah.
Um it just was not, it wasn't going to work for me again. And when the psychiatrist said, when I told him that, well, I'm not feeling, really sad or anxious anymore. I'm still having crying spells, but like they're manageable. I mean, who says crying is manageable, right? It's like I'm managing it. Um, but I wasn't feeling happy. I wasn't feeling joyful. I wasn't having any feelings. And I was like, this, I don't feel right. And he's like, okay, well, maybe we need to up your medication. And I was like, no, we're not going to do that.
Yeah.
And that's when I searched out something more holistic, and that was when I found the energy healing. And at first, I was like, okay, now if you've never heard of the emotion code, it's a modality of using muscle testing, which is using the muscles of your body to tap into where the energies are, or what the energies are, by using charts, emotion charts, belief charts, that kind of thing. And then once you find them, you use a magnet to swipe over the top of your governing meridian to release them.
Hmm.
And I was like, huh, okay. Um, what do I have to lose? It's a magnet, right? It's a refrigerator magnet. It's not going to hurt me, right? And so I signed up for a couple sessions with other practitioners. Didn't have the money to do it, but I was like, my health is worth trying to do this. So I opened like a PayPal credit account so that I had 6 months to pay without interest, right? And so after those couple of sessions, I was like, wow, like I feel different. I feel lighter. I'm tired,
Mm,
but I feel lighter, like a weight had been lifted. And after a couple of days, I would feel heavy again. I was like, oh, maybe this isn't working. And so I did another session and I felt lighter. I was like, I feel a little bit lighter than I did the first time. A couple more days went by and I felt a little heavy again. Not as heavy as I did the first time, but a little bit heavier. And then I had someone explain to me that we all have layers. We're like onions. And as we release these layers, there are other layers underneath that kind of reveal themselves. And I was like, okay, so maybe there is something to this. So I took the webinar that they were offering at the time, because it was like half the cost, because it was during COVID. So they were like, trying to get people to hear the spiel.
yeah.
Um, and by the end of the conference, I was like, I need to sign up for my certification. If nothing else, just to help myself. I never intended on taking it that much further
Hmm.
at that time. It was just, I wanted to feel better. I wanted to thrive in my later years. I wish I'd been able to thrive when my kids were little, but at least now I have the time to devote to myself. And so that's what I did. So for 4 months, I learned this modality of the emotion code and the body code. And then I found a modality called easy entity release. And that was a lot harder to swallow than using a magnet to release trapped emotions. Because while I had a sense that there were ghosts or spirits from the other side, I had no idea that they could attach and cause problems. And so with this easy entity release, I was able to tap into that area of my energy. And within 4 months, I was 80% healed.
Mm.
I had been dealing with anxiety and depression off and on for, at that point, 35 years, for as long as I could remember. And within 4 months, I was 80% healed. And I was just like flabbergasted. Like, what? Okay, so I'm feeling really good, but there's still something missing. And that's when I hired a meditation coach and learned about journaling, which I had an aversion to doing because my privacy had been compromised when I was a kid. I had written down thoughts. My mom had read it, called me home from school to talk about it, and I felt incredible shame for writing down my thoughts.
Mm.
And incredibly, so we're in my privacy invaded.
Yeah.
So I was 13 years old. So you're 13 years old, you think you have some privacy. But our generation quickly learned that nothing was kept private. um, and so I learned, that feeling my feelings was not a bad thing. That if I have fear that comes up, that it's okay to feel that fear. It's okay to feel scared.
Mm-hmm.
And that if you allow yourself to feel scared for 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes, that it is going to pass. And it is going to move through, and it's not going to hold on to you. And so all that self-care was the other aspect of it. But if I hadn't done the energy work, I don't think I would have been able to incorporate the conscious work, because there was so much subconsciously that was blocking me from doing the conscious work and changing, that I was able, the energy healing freed up that space so that I could do the meditation. Even though I was meditating for, like 2 minutes a day in the beginning, that 2 minutes lasted forever. But now I can sit for 30 minutes and have no problems. But it took me 4 years to get here.
Mm.
So don't think you can sit just 30 minutes right off the bat. Some people
Yeah.
can, but most people are not going to be able to. Most people are going to have a hard time sitting for 30 seconds because you're going to keep wondering, did I remember to set the clock? Did I remember to set the alarm?
Yeah.
So if it wasn't for those things, I don't think I'd be thriving right now. I don't think I'd be able to see that even if our hot water heater broke tomorrow, that it's okay that it broke, because we have the funds to fix it, because we've prepared. We have the ability to call someone to replace it, or my husband can, I look at life totally differently than I used to.
I love that. One of the things that stuck out when you were telling your story was, and you didn't say it in these words, but you said you had purchased your forever home and you weren't happy. And what stuck out for me is that so many times we think that once we acquire this thing, we're going to be happy. We're going to have everything we ever wanted. And so like for my example of that is I married the man I wanted to marry. We had a baby. I've always wanted kids. We moved into a house. We were making the money. and I was still depressed and not myself, not even realizing that it's all of my past shit that's still sitting there and that I haven't taken care of because I was a stuffer. I tell people
Hmm.
I used to be really good at stuffing, and I'm not talking about my bra.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's interesting that, we think that once we acquire this thing, then we'll have the happiness, but we don't even think to take care of this stuff that's been sitting over here for years.
Hmm.
So I love that you incorporated that.
Yeah. I mean, most of us in the generations now that are becoming woke, that are waking up to the fact that, um, we're supposed to love ourselves like we love love our neighbor like we love ourselves. That quote is, you're supposed to love yourself first.
Mm-hmm.
You're supposed to put yourself first. You're supposed to fill your cup first. And this is not done in a selfish way. This is not saying, oh, I'm sorry, Johnny, I can't do that for you today because I have to take care of myself. No, it's making adjustments to your schedule so that you are there for your kids and you are there for your neighbor, you are there for your community. But it's making adjustments so that you can get your workout in or get your meditation in or purchase, healthy food.
Mm-hmm.
There are so many different ways and programs to shift how you take care of yourself. But it does take change, and change is hard
Yeah.
because our ego loves to be comfortable. Our ego loves routine. Our ego loves to be in a place where things are just easy,
Yeah.
but easy isn't always good for us.
Right.
And that I found that out the hard way, and I'm still there's still I still have healing to do. Yeah, there are still parts of me that I'm not happy with. Um, but again, when I sit with it, I know that it stems from either something that I brought over from a past life, which I would love to talk to whoever says that we had to bring stuff over from past lives. Like, that's just ridiculous. Like, can we just come in with a clean slate?
Amen.
But there's stuff that, growing up as a teenager, like looking through the 17 magazines, like society kept telling us that if we weren't blonde hair, blue eyed, and a size two, we weren't good enough.
Mm-hmm.
And those of us who are, 40s and 50s, we're still dealing with that. Or going into menopause and being told that menopause is going to be a horrible time in your life, that you're going to have all these hot flashes and hormone rages and all this other stuff. And I'm just like, not me. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to accept what I have been told in the past going forward into my future. I'm going to continue to thrive. I'm going to continue to be happy. I'm going to continue to grow and learn. And if I have challenges, I look at them totally different. Like, okay, why is this challenging? Why is this challenge happening for me? What is it that I'm supposed to learn from this? Is it patience? Is it compassion? Is
Mm-hmm.
it, a new language? Who knows? But because of what I've been through and what I've used to heal, I've been able to just have a different perspective on the world,
Yeah.
different perspective in how other people are. If I meet a um, disgruntled stranger, I don't just brush them off as being, I don't know, a horrible person, as
Right.
being, I don't know if we can swear on here, but as being a dick,
Fuck yeah. Yeah.
right? I don't just say, God, you're being a dick. I stop and go, wow, what happened in their day or what happened in their life that has caused them to react this way to me. It
Yeah.
has nothing to do with me, but it has everything to do with them.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't fault them for it because they're only behaving the only way they know how to behave. And some people look at me and go, how can you do that? How can you just brush how people treat you off? I'm like, because I'm not going to treat them that way. I'm not going to treat them the same way that they're treating me. What
Yeah.
good does that do? We need more kindness in this world. And if we
Mm-hmm.
had more people who were kind, we might not have so many people who are unkind.
Yeah. And to your point, like learning human behavior, human psychology, and starting to see the world differently, it's understanding that we're all just programming walking around, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So like even I'm not going to get like deep into politics, but like the two different sides of politics, that's just how they were programmed. And
Yeah.
so each side thinks that that's the way and that's the truth because that's how they're programmed. And I think that if more people could just be a little more open-minded to hear what the other person has to say
Mm-hmm.
and maybe even share where you got the information from or whatever it is, then, we'd be a lot happier.
I think so too. I think if we came to the table with with wanting to listen as opposed to waiting to respond,
Hmm.
which most people do. They come to the table ready to with their response. They're not even listening, really listening to what the person is saying. They're hearing words, but while
Yep.
they're hearing those words, they're cultivating their response. And I've been there, I've done it. And that's when you start interrupting people. and,
Yeah.
and you try to give them your response before they're even finished talking. And I still catch myself doing that sometimes because it's a program that we have to consciously be aware of and consciously change.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, if we all came to the table with a little bit more openness to our heart to really listen to what the other party is saying and what the other party is feeling, then we might be able to make a step in a different direction. But there are going to be times when we really cannot hear what the other person is saying.
Yeah.
And we have to acknowledge that too, that
Hmm.
that sometimes we're not going to agree with the other party. And with that being said, it's okay to disagree. It's
Yes.
okay to not have the same views. But it's not, one of the most recent um, things that just really, really showed me the difference between people who are willing to listen and people who are just responding is the opening ceremony from the Olympics. And that, for some reason, that was just it killed my heart to hear how many people were so against that beautiful production because of their beliefs and because of what they thought and because of what they heard that formed their thoughts instead of
Hmm.
doing their own research, and how hurtful some of those people were to those entertainers that put so much effort into that beautiful opening ceremony.
Yeah.
And it just showed me that we still have quite a ways to go.
Yeah. I found it interesting too, like even after the ceremony was explained in depth, there were still some people that weren't willing to let go of like, no, it was this. And
Yeah.
here's the proof that it was this, even though they'd be like, no, it was this, you know?
Yeah.
So it's interesting the people that are so close-minded for whatever their reasons are.
Right.
Like
Right.
they're
Their own
more,
programming. Right.
yeah, they'd rather feel right than be right.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
So I was just because sometimes, honestly, I feel like I'm an outsider looking down at our country and going, what's he gonna say? What
Yeah.
just watching what's going on and being like, well, what about our country?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. What in the world did that have to do with really anything that we were going through? Like, who did that really hurt?
hmm
If you didn't like it, don't watch it. And if
yeah,
you did watch it and you didn't like it, I'm sorry. And I understand that you have your opinion, but when your opinion, what I've learned through energy healing is our words carry so much weight. Even when the people that we were talking about don't hear it, they don't read it, that's still an energy that you are sending to those people of dislike or discomfort. And it affects them.
yeah.
When what's her name? Jennifer Lopez did the Super Bowl halftime show,
hmm
and she grabbed herself and did her dance, whatever. And the next day, people were up in arms that she did this. Granted, they weren't up in arms when Michael Jackson was doing it all the time, but because a woman was doing it, they were up in arms. But the mean things that they would say about her, and
Yeah,
it's just like, do you understand that even though she's not reading all of these, she's not hearing what everybody's saying, you're still sending that negative energy to her. And would you want
yeah.
that negative energy sent to you? Why can't we all just get along?
Yes. Thank you. Mic drop, end of episode. It was a pen, but it was not
Yeah.
anyway. Um, but yeah, and I think all of what we're talking about circles back to when we decide to put ourselves first so that when energy like that comes our way, we have our own back. Um, and it really ties into this idea. So like so many people will start like on a health adventure, for example, but they do it from this place of hate. I hate the way I look. I hate the way I feel. I hate the way my stomach jiggles when I jump up and down, rather than I'm gonna love on myself. And by I'm gonna start this place, this health journey or adventure or whatever you want to call it, from a place of love because I love me, and therefore I'm going to love on me by moving my body,
Yeah.
eating nutrient dense foods, eating a cupcake when I want to take care of my
Right.
soul. You know, I always
Right.
say there's foods that are good for your body and foods that are good for your soul. And like just doing it from a place of love because it's such a different energy so that when the outside world is sending negative energy your way, it's almost like
Mhm.
you have this shield up of, you
Yeah.
can think what you want,
Yep.
but I'm gonna do me.
Love conquers all.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds very cliche, but I really did not understand what love really felt like, even after having my kids, because of where I was when I had my kids, because I was still in that up and down depression and anxiety roller coaster.
hmm
I didn't really have the opportunity to feel what real, true, pure love felt like until I went on an ayahuasca journey. And I was shown how much love my family really does have for me. And it was so euphoric and so um, I, I'm at the point now where when something makes me happy, I tear up because I know what that intense emotion feels like. And when you can tap into that, and I tell my clients, try to think of a time that you were just so happy. And if they have a hard time, because a lot of my clients don't have a lot of memories because of all of the trauma that they have been through. But you know, what what is your most favorite holiday? And most of the time they'll say, Christmas is usually their or Christmas or Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
And so mine is Christmas. And so after I had felt that intense love after that ayahuasca journey, um, I tapped into that feeling of Christmas morning and I could feel it again because that was one of the most happiest times that I can ever remember every single year. Because that was the day that there was no fighting, there was no arguing, everybody got along, everybody was laughing. So that's what I was able to pull from. So it might be a family reunion or a birthday or even just a vacation day for some
Mm-hmm.
people. But if you can tap into that day and then just sit with those emotions from that day, you
Yeah.
can you can feel what happiness and love feels like. And then you can start taking that into different areas of your life. When you're having a bad day, take 5 minutes, sit in that emotion, sit in that memory, and just pull the energy from it. Because again, your body doesn't understand whether you're going through it now or you're going through it then.
Yeah.
So go through it now and pull that energy up and sit with it and bottle it and hold on to it. That kind of stuff you can trap those good emotions,
Yes.
but
Yeah.
let the bad ones go. It sucks to sit in the bad ones, especially if they last more than a few minutes. But trust me, when you learn to do it, they're not going to last as long as you think.
I was smiling because my most recent one is so funny to me, but I let it be. So I'm kind of sort of addicted to roller coasters. And so my son and I, when we're not sick with COVID, we go twice a week to our Six Flags Magic Mountain. And there was one time in the summer that we went with friends. And so we stayed all day. And at sunset, when they were eating, I went on a ride that it used to have the biggest loop. I don't think it
Mm-hmm.
does anymore. But anyway, so I'm on this loop. I'm hanging upside down and I see the sunset upside down and I start crying. And
Aww.
I was like, Katie, you're so funny. But I was like, I'm on a thing that brings me joy, the roller coaster, and I see this beautiful sunset upside down, which also brings me joy because I've learned to appreciate the beauty of nature and earth and all that fun stuff. So it's just like instant tears, but they were going upside
Yeah.
because I was hanging upside down. And it's a huge loop, so you're hanging there for a good amount of time. Like you can feel yourself upside down, but I was just smiling
Incredible
because
experience. Who gets to see an upside down sunset?
exactly. I wish I
Right?
could have
That's
taken a picture, but I probably would have dropped my camera.
right. But it
Yeah.
was meant for just you. That
Hmm.
moment was meant for
Yeah.
just you. And there's probably a small handful of people who may have been able to see a sunset upside down.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. It was cool.
That is cool.
Yeah. Well, I have one more question for you,
Mhm.
and I ask at the end of every episode. And that is, if you had one piece of advice that you could give to the world, what would it be?
You are worth spending your time on. Spending your time, your money, you're worth it. Make adjustments in your life to find time to spend on yourself, whether it's getting up a half an hour before the kids get up or scheduling, a half an hour after everybody goes to bed. But find the time to love yourself. And if you can't love yourself, find someone who's going to help you to figure out how to do that.
Beautiful beasts. Tenya Eickenberg signing off. Until next time.